Hello and welcome to this week's edition of WCS Sports Connection. I'm your co-host, Jimmy Qualls, and with me as always, my co-host, Tate Mathews. Tate, it is hard to believe, but it is week one of the football season.
Amazing. Most people think Friday night is game night, but we actually have a game tomorrow night, Ravenwood at Siegel. I'm excited, man. This is my favorite time of the year, but you're right. It seems like it flew by this year.
Absolutely. Now, the funny thing about this is we are so successful in WCS on every facet, whether it's arts, academics, athletics. But what I find funny in my small little world of the athletic world is the principals, the fans, the kids. Everybody's tweeting about what? Friday night. Friday night. So it's interesting to see people that may or may not know, if you're behind the scenes of the educational system, Friday nights in football season pretty much drive your school.
Yeah, well, I mean, in what other venue do you have that brings the community together, that many people for one time? It's on a Friday night, so it's the weekend. You know, some of the other sports play during the week days, so you know that makes it a little bit harder. But you're right, it's a community event, and it's fun to watch. And then you know we talked about it all last season, but the way these student sections have really just taken ownership of who's got the best student section and who's got the best home crowd. It's been really neat to see. So you're right. Friday nights, that's the most exciting week of the year for high schools if you're going to talk about bringing the community together.
Well, let's just talk about last year for a second, as if you didn't know. 2 state championships last year, 5A level with Independence, 6A level with Ravenwood. First time it's ever happened. 15-0, first time we've ever had an undefeated season, and a #1 national ranking with Independence, first time ever. $647,000 worth of walk-up ticket sales last year in football alone. If you take a second to digest it, that's a pretty amazing number. Not sure that we can overcome that this year because the bar is set extremely high. That's a lot of people going to see some football games.
It is. It would help if Nolensville was going to be varsity. That'd be another gate that you would be getting. And you know, I think one thing we kind of lose track of sometimes. You mentioned that you had your first 15-0 season in Independence. You had a 14-1 Ravenwood team. Only loss to Centennial, whose only 2 losses were to Independence. So we really had a third. I mean, they were.
So we had 3 teams. The only losses came within the conference, which is amazing if you think about it.
Centennial was kind of like Ryan Lochte. If it wasn't for Michael Phelps, they probably would have been the 5. But Independence.
That's a very relevant analogy. Thank you for that, Tate.
Little Rio Olympics.
I like it. We have a new venue this year, a new avenue, if you will, of being able to purchase tickets. I'm pretty excited about it. Obviously, with anything new and with technology, there will be a small learning curve of also not only educating us on the sides of being able to handle those tickets, but educating the people of how to get those tickets. PrepTix online tickets are now available for every home WCS football game. Pretty excited about that. You can buy that on your device, present your device at the gate. They punch it. You're good to go in. Do not have to wait in lines, Tate.
I guess all you have to have is a smartphone, right?
That's correct. If you have a flip phone, you can do it from a home computer and print the ticket out, but I would advise you to bring your own device.
Yeah, I think that's neat, you know, and it's one more way we're pushing the envelope here. I believe we're the first ones in the mid-state, or maybe even the state, using this, right? So it'll be neat. You're right. It's nothing worse than showing up or tailgating a little long or whatever, and then you get there and there's that long line to get into the stadium. So I would think that once people figure it out, I think they'll be very excited about it.
And hopefully in the near future, it is not available at the current moment, but through the WCS Sports Conference app as well. When you download the app, you'll be able to get tickets through that, as well as real-time scores from Scoreboard and everything else. So just trying to reach our audience at a greater length here to give them the opportunity, if they're not there, to be able to see what's going on, and when they are there, to be able to access the app, show their tickets, and go through there without even having to standing in line. And then we're going to push the envelope coming with game day and hopefully have our first ever live streamed game day. So, I mean, there's a lot of things going on. It's just, you got to love this time of the year, Tate.
It's fun. I can't wait. I'm very, very excited about this season.
So let's talk about what happened up into this week. Last week we had the last dress rehearsals, if you will. You had the preseason jamborees and scrimmages. Let's start with Page versus Cascade. What do we know about that game?
Coach Rathbone felt good about it. That was a team that he felt like he could be successful against, and they did. They went out there. Of course, they've got some things they got to get figured out this week, and then finishing touches tomorrow at their walkthrough. But they played well. Van Landingham, their quarterback, he felt like he made some good plays. He's a guy who can, as he grows, he's a guy who can be a big playmaker for them. So I think probably a scrimmage, jamboree, whatever you want to call it, that they should have won, and they did. So I think he feels pretty good. You know, we talk about it. It seems to be a broken record. They're filling some big shoes this year. I mean, I would say probably 70% of their offense.
Please tell me the quarterback they're replacing.
Michael McGochi.
There you go. Van Landingham kind of comes down that same.
Van Landingham, that's pretty good.
Van Landingham.
That's right.
Michael Robinson, another one, running back that's also not returning. One thing that I've seen, Tate, with Page, I think Page kind of started off with those young growing pains when they first started their scrimmages, if you will, in this preseason. They have progressed and improved every time. With the last scrimmage versus Cascade, Coach Bone feeling really good about it. I've heard nothing but positive things about it. Heard that they got on Cascade pretty good.
Yes, they did. That's accurate.
But like you know, and like anybody else knows, you can take those scrimmages with a grain of salt because, you know, you're trying to fill out who's going to do what in what roles. Nothing like Friday Night Lights will tell the tale. But, you know, this is a pretty good indicator that they have shown progress through the preseason.
Sure, and as we'll talk about with some of these other ones, you never know what they did. You know, obviously this is open week, so nobody has any game film on the opponent yet. So all you have to go off of is scrimmages. So who knows? Cascade, I don't even know who they opened with, but they might have had a big game and they might have run 3 plays, not shown anything. You know, Page might have done the same thing. So it's really hard to get a feel for how good they're going to be off of the scrimmages, other than, you know, like what we talked about is they want to know who can they count on to compete, and they can get a good feel off of that. So yeah, I would think that we did not see Page's full offense or defense, and I'm sure in the Fairview scrimmage they didn't show theirs either.
Right, and like you said, you mentioned the Battle of 840 counterpart, Fairview versus Wayne County. Wayne County always usually a traditional single-A, tough-nosed football team. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Coach Rice's son is the quarterback.
Yes, he's the last. He's had a few of them. He's the last. Ricky Rice's son.
I was just about to say there's usually a Rice at quarterback for the last 27 years.
That's right.
But this is the last of the Rice boys to come through. What do we know about Fairview versus Wayne County?
Again, I don't know what Fairview did, but if you're keeping score, Wayne County won that scrimmage. But I don't think that Fairview went down there with the intention of winning the scrimmage if you're looking at the scoreboard. So, again, I don't think they wanted to put everything that they had. They're breaking in a new quarterback as well, like we talked about. And so I don't think they wanted to put a whole lot on it. But Wayne County is a very good program. So I think he got out of it what he wanted. Wayne County technically won, but I don't think that was what Coach Hughes was going down there to accomplish.
Well, Brentwood decided to get them a full dress rehearsal against one of the best teams in the mid-state right now, if not the state. Brentwood played Montgomery Bell Academy to kind of see what was going on there, to test the waters, if you will. What did Coach Crawford learn in that scrimmage?
A lot of things that he already knew, but he wanted, sounds like a broken record, he wanted to see some guys. They were very dinged up, so he played some kids that would not normally be in there in the first team reps. Wanted to see what they would do if they can compete, but both of them were kind of nursing some injuries. So found out what he has known all along. They need to get more physical if they're going to do what he wants them to do. Are they where they need to be? No, but they have, through preseason camp, they have gotten better at that. So it was just one more step of finding out, hey, here's where we are, here's where we got to get to, but we're getting closer to our goal. That's going to be probably the story for them all year long. They have to be physical, can't turn the ball over. If they can do that, they can win a lot of ball games.
Does NBA, is that a pass first or run first? What type of offense will they usually run?
If you watch college football, Stanford, that's what they like to run. They've got Ty Chandler, one of the best running backs in the country, definitely the Southeast. They didn't see a whole lot of him. But I tell you what, one thing I love about this, and Coach Crawford can do it, he can look at his guys after that game and say, that's the best running back you're going to see all year long, guys. So if we can, fly to the ball, pursuit, and tackle him, we got a chance to be pretty good. So, but if you look at Stanford, they're going to pound the ball, downhill running game, a lot of play action pass off of it. That's what NBA likes to run.
And they have McCaffrey.
Yes, at Stanford.
At Stanford.
That's right.
But, it's interesting that he plays NBA off this. I know that pretty much at this point in time, everything is, I don't want to say scripted, but there is a strategy behind what we're doing. You're going to play NBA. I want the best running back that I could possibly see. He got that.
He got that.
Because who do I play in week 1? I play
A really good running back.
a really good running back in 15-0. So I'd be very interested to see how that goes. 15-0 Independence, coming in, new running back. We'll talk about that in just a minute. But that's do you think you think that was part of the strategy of playing Montgomery Bell Academy?
I think it was Coach Crawford and Coach Uverard, the head coach of the NBA. They've known each other a long time, goes back to their Riverdale days. I think it was, and I know it was on the NBA's part from Coach Uverard, but I think they wanted to scrimmage somebody that they knew was going to be well organized, show up, and they could get some good reps against a very quality coach team with good scheme. Their kids are going to line up, be in the right position, and I know that sounds like, well, that's a foregone conclusion. No, it's not. and good physical work. I think that's what both of them were looking to get out of that scrimmage.
Coach Kreisky and the Centennial Cougars traveled down to his former job from last year at the Forest over in Chapel Hill, Forest Rockets, their jamboree at the the stadium of the world's largest southeast tractor pull, which is interesting. If you've never been down there, that's a great fundraiser for that group. They built some nice facilities for them, and the facility itself is bigger than the town because it's literally one light, and there it is. And I'm from Centerville, so I mean it's small. But anyway, Coach Brent Johns takes over that Forest program. He was an assistant for Kreisky. They played Spring Hill, a very athletic team at Spring Hill. What do we know about that scrimmage?
Played well. Again, if you're keeping score, I don't know that he was 14-0, but I think he felt good about it. You mentioned it. Spring Hill's an athletic team, and they're getting better. Coach Jay Emmons, who was on the Centennial staff last year as an assistant coach, it's his first year, and he's doing some really good things down there. So they needed to go down there and have some success offensively, and I think they did that. And, they really didn't know anything about Spring Hill. Coach Emmons, now it's a new head coach, new offense coordinator, new defense coordinator, but Coach Emmons was at Centennial last year. He knows what Devious Crispin's about, things like that. So I think he had a little bit of a leg up. So I think Coach Kreisky was very pleased with it. Now, the good is we went down there, we got better, and took care of some things we need to. The guys they're going to see Friday night are better than Spring Hill. So need to have a good week of practice.
Well, a lot of question marks circling around Centennial program. What are they going to look like? How do we do post-Rector? What's it going to look like? What's it going to feel like? Is Crispin the real deal? He's trying to kind of get some traction there on the circuit and getting a lot of noise out about him. You got Eli Katina out there. A lot of things they're really right now to me one of the mysteries. Yes. I'm curious myself about how they're going to come out and do. I think when we did predictions early on in the year, may have not given them as high as what they'll, kind of a dark horse, if you will. But I'm very interested to see what they're going to do this year under Matt Kreisky.
Yeah, and I think, what that was all about is they got a lot of things to figure out, and they got to find out who they are and what they're about. And the problem is their first two games are Franklin and Independence. I mean, those are two, right? Isn't Independence the second? I believe it is. So those are the two of the best teams in the Mid-State. So if I'm Coach Kreisky, I'm not worried about overall record. I think they're going to be fine. And if you go back to when we were talking about it, I think they're going to be fine come the end of the year. They're going to be a team that will make a run in the playoffs. It's just they've got a lot of things they got to find out, and they start off with Franklin and Independence. So, but if I'm them, I take a page out of the Coach Crawford playbook. Now he's not always like this, but when he's not great on offense, they're going to play really sound offense. They're not going to turn the ball over. They're going to run the ball, and they're going to play great defense. And I think that's what Centennial has got to do the first few weeks while they're figuring it out.
All right, Summit. Old Sparty versus Siegel. They went, I was trying to keep up with the game via text. Not sure that they had the showing, but at the same time, once again, Coach Coleman's trying to keep everybody healthy. Let's get a good look of what's going on here. The physicality of that game may a little bit, Siegel may have brought a little more to the table than what Summit was wanting to do. I don't know that for a fact. But Summit, are we still sticking to the plan that they're going to get the playoffs?
Oh, I think so, without a doubt. I think this is, again, what we were talking about. And I don't mean this is a bad thing. Siegel needed something positive. Siegel had scrimmaged Brentwood Academy, MBA, and Centennial. And they went into it was the Rutherford County Jamboree, so that was up there in their place. It was, it was the Rutherford County Jamboree. They needed a good showing, in my opinion. And I think that they came out. I think that their goal was to score some points and win. I think Coach Coleman went up there to have one last scrimmage and get better. So, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but they needed something positive to come out of that. They got that. If you read the article, I thought the Tennessean did a good job on the article this weekend on Summit. You know, that's not what we're worried about. What we're worried about is improving our record and getting in the playoffs. And so I think they're going to be fine. Yes, I still stick with it. You know, returning 21 starters, 12 seniors. I think about that, 21 starters. I don't care. You know, they have to be better than they were last year.
Have to be.
Have to be.
So there's no reason for me to answer that because you know where I feel on that. I was just
You think they're going 10-0?
I was just checking to see where you are on that. All right, Nolensville. We haven't talked about the Knights here very much at all, if at any. Nolensville Knights. So far in the preseason, I know we're playing JV. I know this, but there are some pieces of the puzzle there that look awfully good for the future.
They look pretty
Nolensville played Forest varsity team at the Chapel Hill deal. Obviously, when you go into that, it doesn't matter if you're single A, double A, 5A. If you've got a varsity team out there going against 9th and 10th graders, there's a good chance on the physical side of things you're going to lose that battle.
And that's what happened. And you see it with Summit. You know, you'll see it this year with these seniors. Those guys had to play as sophomores. And I don't care who you are, where you are. When you are playing 9th and 10th graders against 11th, 12th graders, you're going to get beat physically. It's just the way it is. And that's what, and Forest, that's what they're built on. They're going to line up. They're going to come at you. Going to have a really good offensive line, and they're going to be physical with you. And that's what happened. I think Coach Hester's okay with that. The scrimmages that I've seen, you're right. They're young and they're JV, but man, do they have some athletes. They have not one, but two quarterbacks. They got a tailback, and as they get that offensive line bigger and stronger, it won't take long for them to get going.
And on a sidebar note on this, Mill Creek started off, they're 1-0. They got their first win in school history off game one. Coach A-Lot moves his record to 1-0 on the middle school level.
I texted Coach A. I said, 1-0, undefeated. You need to get out now.
Absolutely. You say you won your last game.
Undefeated.
Ravenwood played Brentwood Academy earlier. I'm not sure they've had a dress rehearsal or last scrimmage game since the BA game. So
they took off Friday.
They took off Friday. So they go in BA. Everybody knows on Max Preps, Tennessean, it doesn't matter the publication. BA is ranked number 1 in the state regardless of classification going in. So no one, you got to look at their scrimmages. Ravenwood scrimmaged Oakland, scrimmaged BA, and scrimmaged Indy. I mean, does it get any harder than that?
No. Those are three of the top 5 teams in the state. So, yeah, I mean, that's you find out what you're about, and then so it probably was timed. And now remember, they play Thursday. They play tomorrow night, so they got a short week anyway. So I understand why they took off on Friday. I probably would have done it too. But you're right. They once again, I hate to keep saying it, but you can look at your team and say those 3 guys that we scrimmage, that's as good as we're going to see all year long.
So let's talk about this real quick. They go, they got to play Siegel in that Thursday night game. How important? Not only from Siegel's standpoint, because we know they've not had a whole lot of success.
Right.
When that comes with the head coach thinking, I don't know this, I can't speak for them, but when you don't win, obviously you're thinking, is my job in jeopardy? So I've got to put something together. So it's important for one side to do that, but then you got Ravenwood here to come out. The showing that he has to have, Coach Westman has to have right now to win that fan base over and get Ravenwood right back, keep going where they are. How important is this game?
I think it's very important, and you're right. This is a very important game to Siegel. Siegel had a lot of success about 4 years ago. They've had 2 or 3 years of really down for Siegel standards. And, Rutherford County is like we are. We take it very serious. We're used to success. We expect success. So that is, from the Ravenwood side of it with me, that's something that's pretty scary to me. This is a big, big game for Siegel. It's a game that Ravenwood handled them pretty easily last year. But if you remember the first half, it wasn't easy. I mean, it was kind of an offensive shootout, and then Ravenwood pulled out. So they're going to have athletes, and they're going to have a plan. So, but you're right. On the other side, for Coach Westman, here they are coming off a 6A state championship. I don't think it's a must-win, but yeah, you're right. It sure would be. It would really start the season off on the right foot if he could do that. I think they're going to score some points. It'll be if they can score more than Siegel.
All right, so in the last scrimmage that we have not talked about was probably, one of the best, definitely the best inside our conference of preseason. Here's your last look. We're going to go at it, or at least for a quarter or two, make it look real good. The crowd was enormous. Of course, they had a another event going on at Franklin, their pep rally, the community pep rally, and food trucks and whatnot. But Indy came into Franklin. Here they are, the biggest, probably biggest line team that we'll have or they'll face all year long. And Independence comes in, and I'm telling you what, it was a pretty good game, back and forth. In the end, I think Indy ends up winning 28-14, if I'm not mistaken. Once again, take that with a grain of salt. But interesting game there. It was pretty nip and tuck along the first half of the first quarter.
Yeah. Well, they Independence hit them with 2 quick strikes early on, and then after that, it was pretty much even. But that's what's, if you're an Independence fan, that's what's so exciting about it. And if you're not, that was the only thing Coach Webb was a little disappointed in. They gave up 2 quick ones like that. But then after that, settled in and played really, really well. And like you mentioned, that offensive line, they're not going to be the quick strike team, but they're going to be the team that's going to be able to run the ball. As we mentioned, they're going to hit you with play action pass. And I think that's one thing that's getting overlooked. It won't as the season gets going. Yes, Independence is replacing a lot of guys. Yes, obviously they've got some playmakers that are ready to fill their shoes. But I think this is the year where Independence defense is they were really good last year. They went 15-0. But I think the defense is playing really, really well. So for Franklin to move the ball against Independence's defense, that's what I'd be happy about.
See, that gets so overshadowed by how many points they put up. But you got to think the defense at Independence probably spent double the amount of time than anybody else because you got to be in good shape.
That's right.
When you're scoring every 45 seconds to a minute, really, in a lot of games they did.
Right.
Let's just be honest. 3 to 4 minutes they were scoring pretty much every time. So you got to come back on the field, and the amount of times that they shut other people out, that gets overshadowed a lot. And we'll talk about a little bit about the possibilities of some of these guys making the all-mid-state team and the predictions on these lists. And a lot of those kids are returning a lot of names that we talked about in the past for Independence. But I want to ask you a quick question right here. What team stuck out to you in the preseason?
I think you got to go with Independence. Again, we've said it for a long time. I think they're going to have a very good chance to win 5A again. But, their stat from the other night. Now, again, this is against Franklin, who I think we picked to go 10-0, okay? Brandon Hines was 3 for 3, 150 yards, 2 touchdowns. First play of the game, boom, 80-yard strike to Landon Guidry. When we had him on, if those that watched, when we had Coach Blade on the coaches show, if you didn't watch Hillsboro back then, it doesn't mean he said he's going to use him like he did Eric Gordon at Hillsboro. That's a huge compliment, man. That means he's expecting this guy to be a huge playmaker. First play, 80 yards. I think it's pretty exciting. So I would have to think them. A lot of them, there was a lot of exciting things, but just they're replacing Andrew Bunch, Nate Johnson, every single wide receiver, Daniel Wright at running back, and look at what they're doing.
All right, so I agree with the Independence. I'm going to slide Brentwood in there slightly under. I think Brentwood is, from everybody you talk to, they're looking really good. I really think that they've kind of under the radar a little bit at the fact that Coach Crawford does such a good job. It's not one of those. It's just a hard blue-collared working team, I guess is the way I can put it. So I think that they're going to be good. Now, all right, who needs work?
All of them.
You're right. It's too early to call that, right?
Right.
It's too early. Okay. What about player watch? I'm going to start this by saying Landon Guidry. You've already kind of referenced him a little bit. Landon Guidry right now is one player to watch. Obviously, that's too easy. Give me somebody outside of Independence team, a player to watch.
I think Eli Katina, if he will own it and be the leader that they want him to be and expect him to be and that he can be, I think he's got a chance to have a really big season.
I'm going to give you a name. Remember it. Ravenwood right now, negative, kind of the I won't say negative press, but they haven't done well in the scrimmages because of who they played. Taj Williams.
Yes, player.
Remember that name. I think he will be an impact player. Mid-state rankings right now came out from the Tennessean. This is according to the Tennessean, Tom Krieger, in his rankings. BA number 1, Oakland number 2, Ensworth, who was 5-7 last year, at number 3, Blackman at 4, NBA at 5. Now, we have talked about a few of those teams. BA is legit. We know they're good. Oaks Falls returning. Oakland, you've got the number 1 recruit in the state sitting out there in Jacoby Stevens. Blackman, running back, is a special kid. And then you get to number 6, Independence. There's no way. Now, I'm biased. No way Independence sits at 6, 15-0, number 1 in the country, returning until if you want to be the man, you got to beat the man. And right now, they're thinking Nate Johnson's gone.
Andrew Bunch
is gone, but we've got all these kids coming back. Kendrell Scurry, UT commit. It's just going to be it's interesting. Now, to round it out, Franklin does make the top 10, number 9. I do find this interesting, Tate. Number 7, Smyrna. 8, Hendersonville. 10, Henry County. Those are all regional opponents that we'll have to face at some point in time throughout the matchups this year. To round out the WCS schools, Ravenwood at 21. I would use that as classic material to put on everybody's locker room.
It probably already is.
They are giving you zero chance. 21. You're telling me there's 20 other teams better than the reigning 6A state champions. Better put that up, Coach Westman. Number 24, Brentwood, Centennial, and 25th. Summit comes in in the top 30, under the top 40. They're at 38th. Fairview, 49. Page at 50. We can discuss that all day, what's right, what's wrong, but at the end of the day, it does not matter what we discuss. It matters what happens on the field. So that brings us to the first ever of the year, Pick'ems. So here we go. We got 2 minutes to go. We're going to start with Siegel versus Ravenwood. I believe this is definitely a Pick'em game. Big game for the Raptors. What do you got?
I'm going to go Ravenwood. I think Ravenwood gets them. I don't think it's a 10-7 game by any means, but I think they get them. I think this is where we'll get to see Coach Westman unveil his offense, and that's kind of what he's, that's what he coaches, and that's what he feels good about. I think Ravenwood wins, but I think it's a high-scoring game.
Well, it's not a good season already because we're starting off and we're gonna actually be in agreement on this. I do think that Ravenwood comes in and gets this win, but I think it is a hard fought. I think it is a very, very close game. Just by a hair, the Raptors G2 bar squeezes this thing out. It's going to be tough matchup for them. Indy versus Brentwood. My TV 30 is going to be there. This is a big game. A lot of people are interested in the state about this. Who do you have? Would it be safe to say if there was a line, Indy by 14, do they pull that off?
I think so. I think if this game was later in the year, it'd be closer, but I think Independence win. But Coach Crawford's going to be fine.
Man, it's going to be a great tester for Brentwood to see where they're going to be, but I agree. Indy's still too strong for them right now.
Explosive.
Franklin versus Centennial, the Battle of Franklin. I've got Franklin. Who do you have?
I got to go with Dr. Defense and Franklin, just more experienced.
Summit versus Spring Hill, the Battle of Spring Hill, if you will.
I don't know if it's the first time ever, but Summit starts the season
Old
off 1-0.
Sparty starts off 1-0. Don't even think about it. Don't even talk about it. 1-0, it's a huge game for those guys.
It's called the Battle of the Hill.
Battle of the Hill. It doesn't matter what it's called the Battle of, because Old Sparty's coming out winning that thing. That's a big game. Coach Coleman go get that win to start off the season 1-0. Fairview, Battle of 840. Game day will be there.
Last time we were there, Fairview won. I think Page gets the win this year. It's earlier in the year. That's the best thing they're having Coach Bone.
So you thinking Page?
I'm going with the Patriots.
Absolutely not. He's wrong about that. Pump the brakes on that. Take Mathews. Fairview not only comes in and wins it, they beat them like Page beat them last year.
Whoa.
It's a big win for Fairview. I've got that feeling. And if I get a note on my car this year, they'll be thanking me at Fairview. So we got Nolensville at Marshall County. We'll talk about that. That's going to be the following week. They are off this week against the JV schedule. Thank you for joining us for this first week of football here on the WCS Sports Connection. We'll see you next time.